coming up.
What's so interesting in the whole Grail mythology is that all these knights and some ladies are going on their quest for the Holy Grail, but there's no mentioning of Arthur himself, the king, who goes on the quest. He goes on a quest or adventures, but never to find Grail. So
And
the
why
particular, sorry?
And why is that?
Well, yeah, as far as we may answer that question, is that he, as the king, the Tiferet of the kingdom, he is the facilitator, or he makes it possible for the soul to gather, because the place of Camelot is a gathering place of souls, and not just to gather, but also to depart from. So that's a school of the soul structure. So people can come there to nurture, to exchange stories, but also to receive wisdom from the round table, which is the tree of life. So the king preserves that place, keeps it, and makes sure that a certain harmony and balance is being maintained. That's a Tiferet position. It's likely that the soul of King Arthur already attained the Grail consciousness. And because of that, he or she, because the king is an archetype, could occupy that position.
Hello, Synchronauts. How are you? Welcome to another Elysian Roundtable episode with my dear friend, teacher, and mentor, Mike Bais from Circle of Avalon in the Netherlands. How are you, dear Mike? Welcome.
I am very well, thank you. And I'm happy again to be here. And let's see if we can finish the topic today.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when we're talking about Avalon and we're talking about Camelot, there are so many archetypes and so many things to be said that, I mean, we could be doing a whole bunch of, just a series on the topic, no? But as you say, it's good that we start heading towards closing of the whole topic. And that's what we're going to try to do today. Let's see how it goes. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, it's been a little bit over a month since we did our last recording. But I mean, it might take us a little bit longer than usual, but we will always come back and continue sharing all of these amazing stories from the Kabbalistic point of view. So I am going to share now screen so that we can have our our presentation ready. And I'm sorry, I don't know, I live in Mexico. Let me tell you, Synchronauts, if you don't know, I live in Mexico. So there's a lot of noises around me. And supposedly I did fix the microphone thing on Zoom so that it won't be so noisy. But this is life. Life is happening as we're doing this. So let's enjoy that part of the Mexican culture. If you hear a bit of sounds behind me, I apologize, but it's part of life. So, and it's interesting to think, no, how we used to live as a society, no, many years ago. We're talking here right now about Avalon and Camelot. There was no technology. There weren't so many people on the planet. Like, things were a bit more quiet, no? And now it's like it's so noisy. Maybe at some point we should talk about, we should make a special program talking about the noise around us, no? Why are we making so much noise as a society right now? And why are we evading the silence? No, that might be interesting to talk about someday.
Where does the outside or exterior noise come from?
Exactly, that's a good point.
Because if the interior world is an expression, or the exterior world is an expression of the interior world, then maybe the interior world becomes much more noisy. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Experience it on the outside.
Yeah. So today what we're going to do is talk about going from Avalon into Camelot, because we know that these two are related. Obviously, without Avalon, there is no Camelot. And without Camelot, Avalon cannot fully express itself either, I would say. So you can see, I think it's a little bit like talking about the round table and the Grail. They come together, no? One needs the other to work. So more or less, we could say that this is that kind of symbiotic relationship. But before we go into our topic, let us remember that Mike's book, like an introduction to Kabbalah, and especially talking about modern times where we have so much noise, no? You have, how long has it been? Since February this year, 2024?
Exactly, February. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Paths on the Tree of Wisdom. So tell us a little bit more. How is your book doing, Mike?
Well, as far as I know, quite okay. So especially outside of Europe, I've heard. So yeah, but I don't know the exact numbers at the moment. But it has been received well. And the people who bought it and who reviewed it or sent me an email, they were very happy with it. And they said it's a very clear book, especially when indeed you're just starting on the path and you want to know more about it. You want to, really get going with this tradition. So I'm happy to hear that. Certainly.
Yeah, it is a great book. Definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
And so you can order it directly with Watkins Books, with the editors. And here we have the link where you can find it, but it can also be ordered through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and also like smaller bookstores, no, all over the world. Because I've seen that even in Asia, like it's there, like if people want to buy it. So it's really good to know.
I've seen very unfamiliar languages and places on the web where it is for sale. I didn't know, so definitely. And it's also in ebook form. So if you prefer that. And another new thing, maybe also for you, Aida, is that in October of this year, it will also be in audio book.
I didn't know that, Mike. You were keeping
Watkins
that
is also
secret.
going to publish.
Wow! Congratulations! Wow! Now we have the news. It's coming in audiobook. So has it been recorded, or is it like in recording mode right now?
I think it's almost done, the recording process. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm waiting actually to hear the sample. Yeah.
That's great news. And that's good because sometimes talking about the modern world, no, and you might be busy, but you can even like be doing the dishes and you're learning about Kabbalah, no, or doing the laundry and you're listening to this. And I think it's really good, particularly because you have many special exercises and meditations in there. Hopefully, I would love to listen to it as well, of course. But hopefully they do take the time in the recording to like give it like the pause so that people can even use those bits as meditations. Because it's like so practical, so good.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we have to see and wait. You never know.
Yes. Well, that's really great news.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and if you want to have any information about it, or you want to order it directly from me, that's also possible. Yeah.
At the end of the video, as we usually do in every program, we will share Mike's social media contact information, and also I'm putting it on the description of the video so that if anybody wants to contact Mike. And you're also having your retreat on October over in Austria.
In Austria, so,
do you still have places, or is that fully booked up?
It's actually quite full. I have one room left, but I can't keep it until the end. So if people are interested, they have to book very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's quite full. I can have one more person. Yeah.
Well, that's really good that you're now like taking your own path. It's talking about creating the paths on the Tree of Wisdom. Just starting to do things on your own spaces, and I think that is amazing that people are so receptive to what you're offering, because it's so practical and it's so magical at the same time, and it's very useful. At least for me, like we were talking before recording, we've known each other for like 3 years now, and the transformation for me by being close to you as a student and learning all of these things from you and seeing the practicality of it, it's helped me in very rough times, and it's bringing me a lot of like these are really great tools that you can use in the modern world. And it all seems so chaotic, but if you go to the Kabbalistic teachings, and right now what we're about to do in this program is to embark also on the mythological realm.
Yes, exactly.
To see what that can bring to us, even today with the apparent chaos and things we cannot control. But, and we were talking about this also before recording, like there are things I cannot control that happen to me, but how am I going to be relating to the world? Will I just keep on going in an unconscious way, or am I going to give myself the opportunity to use that as a platform to make my life sacred?
Well, and that's exactly where spirituality, true spirituality, should be about, and definitely not in the last place Kabbalah. That's about life itself. So if the tree of wisdom doesn't deliver the fruits, then something goes wrong on the way. So that's very important. That's our lifeline. Yeah.
Exactly, and you have to like really take care of your tree, of the roots, to nourish it properly, so that when the drama comes or the hardship comes, you'll be able to navigate it the best way possible.
Exactly.
So it's really.
We are all. Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to say, we're all angels, with quiet weather, but when our wings get ruffled by the storm, then we are really being tested. And it really comes to, how did we understand the teachings? How did we integrate it? And how can we apply it?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about this is that these are so like this. I don't know how many years has Kabbalah been around, Mike? Can you remind us? And you talk about the history of Kabbalah in your book, but since when, more or less, has Kabbalah been around?
I don't think anyone can truly answer that question, but probably for maybe a few thousand years. But the name Kabbalah only exists since like around the 13th century. But the teaching is much older than the 13th century AD. So some say it goes back to the times of Abraham, when Abraham was initiated by Melchizedek, that mysterious figure who had no mother and father. And yeah, that's maybe one of the original moments in time when this somehow came on the planet and into the consciousness of the human soul. Yeah.
But it's interesting, like all these thousands of years later, it's still very relevant to the human experience. And I think that's something like to be commended. Like, how can it still be so relevant, and how can it be so useful now?
Yes.
So that speaks about the value of this tradition, and also something that you're doing, and I really appreciate, is that you're expanding it in the sense that you're bringing it to the modern world, which it needs to do. It needs to grow, because it's like the tree, no? It needs to grow, to have a new cycle of blooming and bring new fruit. And the work that you're doing is extraordinary, I think. I'm sure that many people who are very like in the original traditional Kabbalistic path, they might say, oh, like these heretics, no, what are they doing? But the thing is, our understanding of reality and our understanding of so many things is changing. And you also talk about this on your science books about Kabbalah. Like these are like two sides of the same coin. Like we're talking like science, quantum physics. I mean, all of this is also Kabbalah. But
yeah, well,
we didn't know about it.
Or at least it's very easily relatable to a universal metaphysical teaching and philosophy like Kabbalah, at least in this form.
Yes.
I mainly teach Toledano Kabbalah, but I don't mind giving examples of other traditions. But the Toledano Kabbalah is very precise in saying that it's a universal teaching. So it may have roots in Judaism, but also later in Neoplatonism and other streams of thought. And through all that cross-fertilization, it's a universal diagram, universal, timeless metaphysical wisdom. And that's very important to understand. So it's for everyone, not just for a group.
Exactly. Exactly. And now we have a new language, which is a scientific language. We didn't know about quantum physics. We didn't know about lots of things that you talk about in your other books. But that is helping because we are discovering all of these, like there are these other layers of reality that we're understanding. Obviously, that expands our understanding of Kabbalah, and we need to bring those points of view to another level. And that's what you're doing with the work, not only with your books, but also with your different workshops and when you go to different podcasts, like what we're doing right now. And that has a great value. So it's good that you're doing it. And I'm sure many people can benefit. And also some important news, Synchronous, that I was forgetting. We're also getting almost ready to release your first book in Spanish.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and we hope to publish it this year, this 2024 year. Yeah.
Exactly. So now we're moving on to like other cultures as well, because this is universal and everybody needs to have access to these kinds of tools to really navigate life in a better way, in a healthier and happier way, I would say. So there you have it, Synchronauts. You can order the book wherever you are, and now it's going to come out very soon in audiobook form, and I'm sure that we will make an announcement when that's up, and also you can order it digitally. But if you ask me, like, the book is gorgeous. Like if you are like me and you like to touch things and smell them and just have them in your hands, it's great to have the book there, and it has like this really nice effect on it on the cover. It looks like kind of like golden. So yeah, so there you have it. So that's part of our announcements before beginning our program, and also just a little reminder that you can still have access to the recording of the energetic reading of the new galactic Mayan year that began on July the 26th, which is the Blue Rhythmic Storm. And so I actually talked about the archetype of the Lady of the Lake in there. And it was a really, really interesting thing that came up about how the energies are coming for this year. The storm talks about transformation and change, and the rhythmic tone is about balancing. So this is going to be kind of like a challenging year, but it's bringing us opportunities for change. So this is a pivotal year because next year it's going to be a seed year. So like this year, what we're doing is we're preparing the soil to bring in the seeds next year. So if your soil has been neglected, then you need to do a lot of work into that, no? But it has like really, really amazing energies and opportunities of growth. So if you want to check it out, you can still have access to the recording. You can send me a message. I've had people accessing to it from Japan, and also over there in the Netherlands, in the United States, in Canada, Africa, Eastern Europe. Like, people are very interested to listen not only about the energetic path of the year, but also like what kinds of mythologies are coming into play as well, so that we can connect to that. So that's still available, and I'm actually preparing another video that's going to be for free, but I'm about to embark on an adventure, and I might talk about it later on, but right now I'm like, my attention is elsewhere, but I'm preparing another special extra, a little extra, to give another perspective of how the year will come, just in terms of the pulse of the storm. So that's going to be for free for everybody. So I will also release that both in English and in Spanish, and I will let you know about it. So send me a message, and also, or if you want to have a reading of your galactic Mayan energies, I'm also available for that kind of consultation. And it's so interesting to see the synchronicities, because the galactic Mayan is more than a calendar, and I would say calendar, quote unquote. it's more than that, it's a synchronic language. And if you learn how to decode it, it brings you pearls of wisdom for you to navigate also your life in a different way. So that's the announcements that we have. So without further ado, now let's go back to our topic. Yeah, finally. Dun, 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 dun. So now we are going from Avalon to Camelot. So where do you want to go, dear Mike? Do we go to the tree? Do we move on to the next pages?
Yeah, we have a tree behind me, so yeah, we can go back to this one maybe occasionally, but let's go forward to the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, because it took us a while actually to arrive, so to speak, at the Isle of Avalon, or the Isle beyond the mist. And just as a reminder, but you can see that a little bit on the sides, that it's an island of apple trees. Afalach means apple, and in the Celtic tradition, the apple is the fruit of wisdom. Not so surprisingly, because in the biblical tradition, of course, in the Edenic story in Genesis, there is a place of richness, of spiritual richness or oneness with the divinity, and there's also the tree of good and evil where apples grow, and that's the knowledge not just of God but also of existence in time and space. So Avalon is like the Edenic world, or some like to say Atlantis. It is an island. It is surrounded by water. So a lot of water myths are actually surrounded with this and connected to the mythology of the Round Table and Avalon. And as you can see in the background, you see there, for some people it may be, I don't know, familiar. You see Glastonbury Tor with the tower on it. And geographically, that's in Somerset, UK. And it's being said, and this is likely to be very true historically, that it is truly has been a group of islands surrounded by water. So that's why they say probably, or they hope so, that this group of different hills, of which this is the largest or the tallest, is a part of Avalon. But for us, the most important thing is that it's a mythological or an interior reality. And what we see in the middle here is the so-called 9 sisters of Avalon, the 9 priestesses of Avalon. And in their midst, they actually hold and take care of a kettle or a cauldron. And according to the different versions of the myth, because you have certain stories coming from Cornwall or Wales, Ireland, Scotland even, but also from the mainland in Europe. But most of the time it's a cauldron, and in it is a certain fluid substance. And the 9 sisters, they keep it burning, and with their breath and their singing, they also keep the substance pure. And the high priestess of it all, Morgan Le Fay, oversees the whole process. Now, of course, this is a metaphor more than it's a literal reality. And in the kettle, you find a substance called awen. And this is the dew of life. And everyone who will somehow come into contact with it or drink it will gain spiritual powers. Most of it is like transformation, and you get the so-called sight. You become a seer of a reality beyond the normal vision and perception of the senses. But there's more to it. It's also being said it's the kettle of transformation. So life cannot die with the substance of the cauldron. And there's a nice story in the so-called Mabinogion stories. That's a book coming from Wales. And there, during a battle between different groups, this kettle and the substance was used to throw in the dead soldiers who had fallen on the battlefield, and they were regenerated. The problem only was that they were like soulless bodies, so they could be sent back to the battlefield, but more in a zombie-like mode, because everything can be regenerated, but not the soul. And that's a very interesting Kabbalistic piece of information here, because the soul is not incarnated. It cannot be regenerated. It comes from a different reality. And as it's been said in Kabbalah, it's being installed within the body.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot make it. You cannot regenerate it. So that's one of the functions of the priestesses of Avalon. And of course, that's the center, that cauldron of all the wisdom that is present within Avalon. And like heaven or any interior place of wisdom, this is the background from which the normal world, so that's not the island itself, but the mainland, so to speak, is receiving its wisdom from. This is like the core energy of metaphysical or spiritual wisdom, which is the background wisdom of the normal world. On the tree, that would be that, I'll point it out like this, that the upper part of the tree, yeah, you can point it out there, that's the higher face on the tree. Within the center da'at, that would be the Isle of Avalon. And to cross it, you need to go beyond a certain boundary. Sometimes it's water, sometimes it's mist, or it's a chasm of some kind. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. The normal world, so to speak, that's the lower face. With at the center Yesod. And the higher circle, and in our whole topic and discussion, that's the Isle of Avalon. It provides the wisdom for the lower circle, the lower worlds. That's the world of man. That's the relative world we are living in. And of course, the question is, does the lower circle have any interest in the upper circle? Does it want to seek? Does it want to know? Does it go in pursuit? Yeah. And of course, often there's no interest, and the isle is just being forgotten, or not even forgotten, but it's just out of any perception of interest. And to have that center point there between the circles, as you so nicely did, that's Tiferet. And that's the center of self-consciousness. And there we wake up to this higher reality. Not just only the world at the lower garden, or the lower face of the tree, but also the upper part of the totality of existence, which is also the collective unconscious, where Jung talks about. So there we find a different interior reality. For our, or in our discussion about Kabbalah and the round table, this is Avalon, or the higher worlds. But in any other tradition, it may have a different name. It doesn't matter. But it is where you find the higher wisdom or metaphysics of any tradition. Or the teachers, the interior teachers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the next slide.
Ready?
And
this one?
Yeah, exactly. Because awesome. The title of today is from Avalon to Camelot and back again, of course. And here we have, it seems like a strange leap from these priestesses to this battlefield, but there's of course a reason for it. Here we see a charge of two persons. The one is actually King Arthur, and the other one is his half-breed son Mordred, who claims the title of being king because he is the bastard son. It's not a nice word, but anyway, that's how it's being used, of Arthur. So he wishes, and he's going to claim actually the throne of Camelot. Now, Camelot, as we have talked about before, is not just an ordinary kingdom. It's not a kingdom of animal man. It's not tooth and claw. It's not the law of the jungle that reigns there. You have to be of a particular inner stature to be the ruler of Camelot, because Camelot knows about Avalon. It receives its wisdom, and then it is the core kingdom from where that wisdom is being brought into the ordinary world of man. So it's a particular spiritual kind of kingdom. So not really something for a figure like Mordred, who is like a real animal man. So here we have the final clash at the so-called Battle of Camlan in the myth. And if we go one slide further, we can see here what happens is that Mordred is almost having the upper hand, and the one with the spear is King Arthur, and he stabs Mordred, and he doesn't survive, obviously, but Mordred, as you can see, has also still the ability to slay King Arthur, who doesn't die immediately, but he is wounded enough that he cannot proceed any longer, and he needs help quickly. So what happens at the battlefield is also still in the possession of the particular magical sword called Excalibur, which you can't see in this particular picture. Arthur remembers one thing, and that is that he owes actually the higher worlds where the sword came from, Excalibur, to return it where it came from.
Yes.
So he tells one of the first knights of the Round Table, one of the most loyal ones, called Sir Bedivere, he says, bring this sword back to the lake and cast it to where it came from. A very difficult task for Sir Bedivere, because he thinks, what's the use of doing this? And we should keep it, and there will be other battles. But eventually he is able to do it, and he throws back the sword into the lake. And then the second task is to bring the heavy wounded Arthur to the shore of a certain part of that lake. And we can see that in the next picture here. There you see Sir Bedivere and lying down King Arthur. And here they are waiting for that boat, which is the boat from Avalon. So these are the sisters, or a few women. In most stories, these are the three ladies that come to pick up King Arthur. Most of the time, it's being said that one of them is Morgan Le Fay, and the other ones do change sometimes a little bit. But nevertheless, they are sisters of Avalon, and they come to collect the king, to bring him back home to where he came from, because the origin of the king is from Avalon. And that may remind us of the fact that at the very beginning, at the birth of King Arthur, he was collected by Merlin, and Merlin took the child, Arthur, to another place. And there Arthur was actually educated and brought up in this, mysterious place. which very likely is going to be Avalon, or was Avalon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so let's see the next picture that we have. The three, or this particular picture, four ladies. One with the crown, probably Queen Guinevere, and with the book there is his half-sister Morgana, or Morgan le Fay. And some say that one of the other ladies is Igraine, his mother. And these three are appointed to get the king and bring him back to the Isle of Avalon. So there they go. And
I think, if I may, just like, I want to add something that I hadn't noticed looking at,
sure.
at this image, because there's this angel and there's the grail there. I don't know if this is the grail or a grail, but I just wanted to mention this, and I think it's important, coming back to bringing the sword back to the lake, because we talked about in previous programs that these magical objects, they are meant to be here just on a loan for a while, so that they will serve a purpose, a higher purpose. It cannot be the purpose of the 3D. It cannot be for the loss of power or like money, or no. That's not what it should be used for, because if you try to use it that way, the object will lose its magic and degrade anyways. So
exactly.
Had then the knight that Arthur appointed to bring it back to the lake, had he kept it, it would have become a curse for him, and it would have degraded, and then it's lost forever. So it's important. In a way, I can also see a parallel between the stories, that Arthur was given to the world as a magical object in a way too. He was meant to serve a purpose. And then when that was done, he had to come back to the origin. And I'm sure you will tell us a little bit more about it soon, that there is a prophecy that says that he will come back. No? And that's the importance of the magical objects, or these archetypes, that they come for a while, they do the work, but then they have to go back to the place of origin, like regenerate, and then they will be available for service once more.
Yes. No, it's a very good point, or different points that you're making. And what's so interesting in the whole Grail mythology is that all these knights and some ladies are going on their quest for the Holy Grail, but there's no mentioning of Arthur himself, the king, who goes on the quest. He goes on a quest or adventures, but never to find Grail. So
And
the particular... Sorry?
And why is that?
Well, yeah, as far as we may answer that question, is that he, as the king, the Tiferet of the kingdom, he is the facilitator, or he makes it possible for the soul to gather, because the place of Camelot is a gathering place of souls, and not just to gather, but also to depart from. So that's a school of the soul structure. So people can come there to nurture, to exchange stories, but also to receive wisdom from the round table, which is the tree of life. So the king preserves that place, keeps it, and makes sure that a certain harmony and balance is being maintained. That's a Tiferet position. It's likely that the soul of King Arthur already attained the Grail consciousness. And because of that, he or she, because the king is an archetype, could occupy that position and rule the kingdom, the spiritual kingdom on earth.
For others, so that's very likely. Quest.
No? Yeah, exactly.
They're holding the space. Yeah.
And that's also the whole function and the position of the teacher, of the shaman, is you know, and now you facilitate a space. That can be a temple or a church or a living room where people gather and they receive knowledge how to find their own grail, or how to go in pursuit of spirit. How do I find it? And so a very good point. And so that's probably what the painter, the artist, has meant to show us here. Exactly. Yeah. And of course, when our body, or the body of King Arthur, is truly dying, then the thing that remains is the essence of the Grail, which is the spirit, which is beyond life and death.
Exactly.
But it's not there yet, because Arthur is, like you just said at the very last moment, is the future king to be. So the king, or at least the idea of the king, never truly dies. So that part within us is the thing that rests until a next time comes for it, I will not say him, but it, the soul, to incarnate again and to move into the wheel of life and death, into the Gilgulum, and to come into time and space and to re-establish the kingdom again. So if we go, I think, into the next slide, here we see the other end of the shore. So that's a beautiful picture of Avalon. And here the king rests. He's not dying, or he hasn't died, but he's resting and asleep. And this is probably also a parallel to the state of transition. We call it death, but a transition where the body is being left behind. But this is a picture of King Arthur as the soul. That part that really doesn't deteriorate after physical death.
Yeah.
But it awaits within the higher worlds, or in Eden, and here in Avalon, until the moment when the time is there for the soul to reincarnate again and to re-establish the kingdom. And that's the whole point with King Arthur in the myth, is when does he arise again? And that's a question we can all ask ourselves. When does the King Arthur again awake within us and re-establish that kingdom? And at first, of course, that's a kingdom that should arise from us, from our own innate power and energy, and then establish it outside of ourselves. Not that's literally, right, of course, and build a building, but make your home into a Camelot and live the principles of the higher worlds. And we can find them on the tree, of course, and practice and act out the chivalric code, etc., etc. And we can all do that. It's a message for everyone. It's the same as the second coming of Christ, you know, the one who dies and resurrects. But the message is not waiting for the second coming of Christ, but now it's your turn. So when do you wake up and reincarnate? And that's a reincarnation of spirit in life. You don't have to die for it.
Yeah.
Rather, maybe a psychological death, but not a physical death for that matter. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I think that when you're in the spiritual path, that happens. That you're being, and I know that because I've just come out of a very dark night of the soul, and that was the big thing that I learned, that I understood. You're being asked to die psychologically to who you think you were, or you were meant to be, to become who you really are, and bring that the real energy of your soul into the world, and then create that Camelot out of your heart with authenticity. But that requires for us to die to our limiting beliefs, to our culture, to like so many things, because it's so easy to get stuck with, oh, this happened to me when I was this old, and then this happened, and the drama. It's like, no, you have to transcend that. And in order to do that, you have to die to who you were. Not physically, as you say, but psychologically. And
Yeah.
once you're out of that, it's really interesting to see, like, wow, this is what was asked of me, just to become something else. And it's not easy, it hurts, but it will serve a higher purpose. And I think that's also what this mythology is trying to tell us. And that has to do obviously with the Kabbalistic teachings that you are sharing with us. Bring down heaven to earth in the best way as we can in this very dense world of Asia. Huh?
Exactly true. No, that's a very good reminder. And the death, like you said, the psychological death that we are dying is a death of identity. So, our identification with the lower part of the tree, identification with the body, with the ego, with our personalities, with our ownership of certain things within the world, or all the things that we think we need to be responsible for, or our demands, and whatever it is. And that is what needs to go, to free ourselves and then re-identify at first with the soul. And that's our human part.
Yeah.
So that part which is open again to a higher reality, which is self-conscious and which has choice, free will. And from there, to reconnect with the concept of Avalon. And that means to be in a tradition. It can be Kabbalah here. So you're interested in metaphysics, you're interested in spiritual wisdom. And that's what you are connecting to through study, meditation, or joining a group, or listening to a podcast, and connecting and reconnecting with that revivifying and nurturing source that is always available. Avalon is always there. It's very reliable. It is the lower part of our humanity and the ego, which often is, all over the place. But the soul is the first thing that is going to be concentrated and, giving its attention and energy and dedication to it.
Yeah.
Only then can we truly become a vessel for what you are saying, to draw down heaven or Avalon upon the earth and establish a kingdom.
Yeah.
Exactly true. Yeah, and that's basically also what, again, the title of our podcast of today, we're trying to actually come full circle, what it is about. So how does one come from Avalon to Camelot? So we have also made a little list with some particular. Oh, sorry. Let's go to that little. Yeah, it's a little picture that I thought was nice to see, that at the end, when Arthur has to be brought back to Avalon, there is the decay of Camelot. So there will come a time when you have to let go of everything that you build. And so Camelot is not a perfect kingdom. It's not something that will remain forever. And it's like the idea of a Jesus or a Buddha. The ideas remain, but what they have established during their life, that will go. And that's a very important thing to remember, that we always think the wisdom will remain on the unseen realms or on the Isle of Avalon. But in this world, everything is transient and it will decay eventually. So let go of the kingdom when time is dead.
No, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was done.
No, the thing is, I would love to share a story that is so related to what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Because when these people are incarnated, these great teachers, they come sometimes after they die, they leave behind objects. And we know this very well, for example, in the sense with Jesus, after he died, there was obviously the Grail, and the Shroud of Turin, and there's the Spear of Destiny, for example, no? Which are objects that are like still embodying the mythology, so to speak. And something happened here in Mexico, and I want to share real quick this story because it pertains to this that you're saying, no? Like one thing, like what remains is the teachings, but as humans, we are so obsessed to having like a physical object that will represent, represent those ideas or those teachings and those mythologies, that what happened here, we have this mythology in Mexico about this woman who was called Regina actually. There is a whole book about her, that she was the reincarnation of the last Aztec emperor, and then during the 68 riots with the students here in Mexico, like she came and she was bringing the awakening of the Mexican people. Now, what is so interesting about that is, like, obviously she died, there was a sacrifice, and she died during the shootings with these students. And it's a really interesting story. I'm working on that mythology and bringing it into the English world because it's only in Spanish. But
good. Yeah.
But lately, what has happened, there was a guardian of, she had a staff, speaking about, she had a staff. And so she left the staff to the witness, the one that wrote the book talking about it, Antonio Velasco Piña. Now, in 1994, Antonio Velasco Piña passed the staff to Alberto Ruz Buenfil. This man is the son of the archaeologist who discovered the tomb of Pacal, the King Pacal in Palenque. So there's a lot, like there are mythologies converging here. That happened in 1994. I wasn't aware of that. But Antonio Velasco Piña passed away like a couple of years ago, and Alberto Ruz passed away recently, just a few months ago. So when Velasco Piña gives the staff to Alberto, he said, I'm not ready for this. Like, this is too much of a responsibility. And you have, you're a man, it doesn't matter, you have to continue with this. And then Alberto Ruz, he was ill his last couple of years. He had cancer, and he was aware, like, I'm gonna die, and this object represents something. So there was this woman within the movement that was claiming that the staff was hers, and she's got, if you have the staff, no, like you are the continuation, the continuation of that, no?
Yeah.
And there's also this other person, another woman, that is claiming that she's the reincarnation of Regina at the same time, somebody else, no? I'm just looking at this craziness, and I'm sharing this story so that we can be aware of how are we going to relate to our own mythologies and our own beliefs, no? Because what I notice is that they are missing the forest for the trees. They are completely forgetting the teachings of Regina. She was kind of like Jesus and Buddha, like, I am not important. Like, what is important is the teachings. And now these people who had nothing to do with her, really didn't meet her or anything, like they're fighting over it. It's like the Excalibur state here, no? And they're fighting over the object because that's gonna give them recognition and that's gonna give them status, no? So I'm just looking at this story from afar. I'm just like, oh my God, they are so confused. They're not understanding anything.
No, that's a very nice nice example. And sure, I mean, we see on the picture, of course, a castle fallen into ruin, or a whole village for that matter. But of course, sometimes it happens that the castle is still intact, but what it contains has been lost. So it may be that churches and cathedrals are still intact. So physically, they're not, they haven't collapsed, but the teaching is not there. So the contact with the higher worlds, with Avalon, is not present. And people often can detect this. They feel it when they enter it. Sometimes there is a presence, obviously. There's still something happening there. And sometimes it's completely empty. So no, that's a very important point. And that's what we should do in our own effort, in our own home, or whatever place you are gathering with people, is if you want to really make a Camelot, then like you said, the space itself or the items are not of prime importance.
Exactly.
It always comes to the human being. That's the place of the soul and the place of contact with Avalon, and everything that is outside of us. Those are temporary vehicles or vessels for that time being and for that incarnation to manifest the wisdom.
Yeah. And this is a tale of caution, really. Like, don't get obsessed with the objects because they don't mean anything, or don't get obsessed with the physical space. What really matters is like, go to your heart, and that's like, doesn't matter where you go. You don't need a staff, you don't need the grail, like a physical grail. You don't need any of that to connect to the higher worlds and make your space sacred. So I'm just amused by the idea that people are so obsessed with, I need the validation, no? I need the object. Like, no, you don't. You just need to connect to the higher worlds. Your body is already the temple. Your heart is a temple. Stop getting distracted by the outside appearances. That's not going to take you anywhere. And if you encounter people like this, like the story I'm telling you is like, run for the hills. Like, get away from it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
That may be. No, that's very good. And it may also be a reference to the moment where Excalibur has to be tossed back into the ocean. You know, the power is actually not the sword itself or the scabbard, but on a deeper level, it is actually within, in the human nature, within our being.
Yeah,
definitely. So let us have a look at the last slide where we see just
to
summing
close.
up. Exactly, just the summing up of a few things to do with the Isle of Avalon. A place of spiritual teaching, progress, evolution, a wisdom for a new age. So, and a new kingdom. So, an inner realm of the spirit, like we said, it's also comparable to Eden or heavenly gardens or Atlantis. It's a place of ancestors, saints, and teachers of the tradition. So if you want to contact, if you are in a serious school of the soul, this is always being promoted to you. Find your inner teacher, find the teachers and ancestors of your particular school and contact them. So that's also a place of Avalon. Inner teachers who assist the world from the spiritual kingdom. And Avalon endures in the realm of the spirit, as we just said. Camelot comes and goes to time. So Avalon is in that sense reliable. And it sustains time. It's also the island of healing and regeneration, as we have seen in the example of King Arthur. The resting place of the king, it's been called, until the king is called again to rise again, not resurrect, but to rise again and to establish another kingdom. It's the island of the priestess. Like I said, a lot of sea mythologies are being related to this idea of the islands in the sea or in the lake, and those who nurture the king to be. And the metaphysical world or the creative world, as we've seen, the upper part of the tree is also the metaphysical part of the tree, or the spiritual creative world. And then it's also the spiritual place of redemption or teshuvah. It's the place where we go to eventually refine ourselves, but also to redeem or free ourselves. And of course, we have to free ourselves from ourselves, not from anything else, not from the world, but from our interior obstacles and problems that we have created or have been generated within us. That's the true spiritual world. Yeah. So this is there may be more points, but these are some good descriptions of the Isle of Avalon.
Yeah, very practical as well. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of food for thought after this program, definitely. And so I'm going to stop sharing the screen now.
Sure.
And So we don't know, we haven't talked about what we will talk in our next program, but obviously we will continue in these Kabbalistic musings, that's for sure.
Yes.
And so, Mike, if people want to contact you, if they have questions about this program or your activities, your books, how can people contact you?
Right. Well, first of all, 2 email addresses, but the most important one is mikebais@rocketmail.com. That's a Yahoo account. So that's all in small letters, just in one way, mikebais@rocketmail.com. My website, so that's circleofavalon.nl, which is in English, or Kabbalah and also the latest activities are on there. So that's all over the place, including the Austrian retreat. If you're interested in it, be quick, because
one space left.
Full. One space left, exactly. Yeah.
Right, very good.
Yeah, and so, you can look me up on Facebook. My name, Mike Bais, or the other page is Circle of Avalon, and you can find me there.
Excellent. Yeah, so there are many ways to contact you, definitely, and you're very open to having communication with people. And we would also like to hear from you guys who are listening to us or looking at these programs, like if you have any questions or how are you relating to this information that we are sharing with you. We would love to have your comments. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to like this video, share and subscribe, and click on the little bell so that every time I have a new video, you can check it out. As you can see, I post a lot of things in Spanish, but also in English, and I'm trying to expand a little bit more in English. So this is a multicultural space, a multi-traditional space as well. As long as we're working here with love and respect, obviously, I will be bringing people to share their points of view, and I think that's nice what we're doing, particularly with Circle of Avalon and Mexxicamelot. So I'm super grateful to you, dear Mike. So how are we finishing our session today? Just like some last reflections upon what we have been sharing during this series of Avalon and Camelot programs.
Yeah, well, in particular, now we came like full circle back to where we came from. We started with Camelot. Is I would say the reflection, how did we already, or would we wish to, establish a kingdom on this earth, and start with looking inside and what are we building there, and maybe you can find already some spiritual qualities within yourself that resonate with an interior kingdom of this kind. And I would say in meditation practices, try to contact the Avalon within you and see what you receive, to slowly, like brick by brick, build this inner kingdom within you. And lastly, we are being tested in daily life, how that kingdom is not only established, but also how it endures through time. Like in all the stories of the Round Table, Camelot is being tested again and again. And that is how we apply the teachings within daily life. So I hope that's not too abstract, but that's what I would like to give to the people.
Yeah, I don't think, well, I mean, it's abstract, but it can be applied in the 3D world. So it's a good reminder, no? Like, as I was saying earlier, how can we make our lives sacred, even though it seems that it's impossible? But sometimes it can be really, really simple things, just being mindful of your here and now, and then you're making the moment sacred, and you're connecting to the higher world. It's doable, definitely.
Oh yeah, it is. No, certainly. Otherwise, we wouldn't talk about it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, dear Mike. Thank you, Synchronauts, and we'll see each other very soon. We will see what the next topic is. We have no idea, but I'm sure it's going to be just as riveting as this whole series about Avalon and Camelot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Natalie. Bye-bye.